Welcome to the Onside Kick. Ricky Widmer here along with Dave Oster.
Hey, guys.
And Mark Weber.
How's it going?
And we're back like we are every week to talk nothing more than football. And guys, in the NFL had some big movers and shakers this week as Matt Schaub gets traded. We have Michael Vick going to the Jets. Mark Sanchez getting released from the Jets. And the Texans also signing Ryan Fitzpatrick. But let's start with Houston. We talk about them every week, mostly because they do hold that number one pick. And everyone's like, are they going to go quarterback? Are they going to go defense? Well, they sign Fitzpatrick, trade Matt Schaub. Is it for sure now that the Texans, hey, you know what? They're going to go defense with that number one pick.
I want to say no, because Fitzpatrick, we've seen what he can do. He got that ridiculous contract for that. I want to say half of a year of a fantastic performance. And it was just pick. So I'm like, did you even make an upgrade there, or was this about cap room, or what? I mean, Schaub for a 6th rounder to Oakland, great deal. You weren't going to start him, let him go. That's fine. But Fitzpatrick, I don't know if bringing him in is like, hey, we don't really like any of these quarterbacks, so we're going to take Fitzpatrick for a year and a half. Maybe we'll get a quarterback late and try to bring him up. It seems like a stopgap. I think they're leaning defense. Yeah, I'll go defense 1st round.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. We are going to ask this question probably every single week until we get to the draft.
Well, I think it's tough. It's a complete lateral move. There literally could not be a more lateral move out there than Schaub to Fitzmagic. And there's going to be plenty of interceptions still. Maybe not a pick-6 streak quite like Schaub had, but he can try his best. I think it answers the question they'll probably not go quarterback in the 1st round. From 2nd round on, it's open again. You can go ahead and take that quarterback because you're not going to be in another position quite
so like maybe
you're in.
Maybe a Garoppolo or a Fales instead of a Bridgewater or Manziel.
Even Derek Carr might be available in the 2nd round. He will be available in the 2nd round.
And that all depends on throwing another team in there, what the Browns are going to do. Are the Browns going to go for that heavy hitter quarterback, or are they going to say, hey, we can get something else here, and then with our late 1st round, Derek Carr?
I don't know. Derek Carr did have a really good pro day, though, even though he was coming off of a bug they were saying, like he had an IV hooked up to him. He was hugging the toilet all night. But he had a really good pro day. Teddy Bridgewater didn't. So, I mean, you could see some movement going with those top quarterbacks changing the order yet again. I don't think Derek Carr has pushed himself into the top 10 picks, but he may be a late 1st rounder.
Especially now that you have the Oakland Raiders kind of sort of have a quarterback.
Yeah,
the
Schaub
Texans
is their quarterback.
kind of sort of have a quarterback right now. Well, you had these two teams that were going to be probably the first two to take quarterbacks. They're already taken care of. Maybe we don't get a quarterback taken until Jacksonville now. But with Chad Henne, is he a quarterback? They're paying him like a starting quarterback. Mm-hmm. So maybe that first quarterback isn't taken until the Cleveland Browns at pick number 4.
Well, I mean, let's go back to the original Schaub Fitzpatrick. And their stats from last year, pretty comparable because Fitzpatrick played 11 games, Schaub played 10 games. And in the games that they played, looking at their stats, Fitzpatrick threw for like maybe 100 more yards. Schaub threw 2 more interceptions, and the touchdowns, Fitzpatrick had 4 more. So, I mean, they're in the same ballpark with stats compared to last year.
Exactly. It's just a move to get a fresh face in town because I don't think they want to admit that they're not going to take a quarterback up front, but that's what all signs point to is we're going to take Fitzpatrick, and we're going to go ahead and get defense and go for a later round quarterback, or we're going to get a quarterback next year because there's no way they could bring Schaub back out there after what happened last year.
To me, it's interesting. I think this spells out that they just don't like Manziel, Bridgewater, Bortles. I just guess they don't like them because they're going to probably have a rookie play next year because we know Fitzpatrick is not that much different from Matt Schaub. And when those fans start seeing the interceptions go again and start seeing the same old, I don't think they're going to be very happy. And I think they're going to be demanding change. And we'll end up seeing some rookie that was taken in the 3rd round probably thrown to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
That might not be a bad thing if you get a guy who can handle that. I mean, we've seen 3rd rounders win Super Bowls just last year. But at the same time, you also might get a guy who isn't ready for that. And I think what they're trying to do is go back to the old way of, we'll let a guy prepare for a little while and just kind of learn and have some corrections to their game to become better in the future.
Is Case Keenum that guy that they're going to say, okay, maybe Fitzpatrick's the starter for this season? Is Case Keenum still the guy, undrafted in 2012? Is he the guy that you say we're preparing him to be the starter?
I don't think so.
They're drafting somebody this year, I think.
Yeah, it would be an absolute shocker if they didn't pick a quarterback in any round. I mean, there's no way Case Keenum... I'm sorry, he may be undrafted, and he may have shown something last year, but he's not the guy you're going to rest your franchise on.
A.J. McCarron. I'm just saying, not many people are going to draft him very high because he's not a flashy quarterback, but he wins games.
And
That's what he showed in college.
He would work in a system that Houston has had. Assuming Bill O'Brien keeps a similar type of system, he would work, sure, but so would a lot of other quarterbacks, and you can probably get someone with a little bit more of an arm.
I was going to say, if your plan is to let your defense do all the work and hand the ball off, there's a lot of quarterbacks that fit that system. But that's what A.J. McCarron did a lot of the time at Alabama. And you know what? He's not... I think a lot of that gets overshadowed because he did go out and make some good throws and win some games for them. So it's not just all on Bama just having the better players than everybody else because they are basically like an in-between or college pro team. But I think he's an okay quarterback. Again, I don't think he is that standout guy who 3 years from now could be like a star.
Well, and now moving over, let's go. We've talked enough about the Texans, I feel like, in previous podcasts and today. Schaub, he is now an Oakland Raider. Dennis Allen has come out and said, man, he's going to be the starter. What do you think of Oakland now that you know, okay, we have a head to that offense and it's Matt Schaub?
Who's he going to throw the ball to is my first thought. I mean, they got Derek McFadden back for 1 year, and that's may or may not start if he's healthy or not. I mean, just because they got a quarterback who's got some good mileage to him, what are you going to do with the offense, though? Like, they just came from using Terrell Pryor in this wide-open offense and letting the quarterback be super creative to now Schaub. I'm curious to what they're going to do play style-wise. And, again, the big question, who's he going to throw the ball to?
I can tell you who he's going to throw to. He's going to throw it 2 times a year to that newly improved Broncos defense. They're stepping it up, and he's a guy who loves to throw interceptions. I see nothing changing. He doesn't have anybody on the Oakland Raiders who's going to really compete against those good safeties, those good cornerbacks to make sure they keep the ball, and that's what Matt Schaub really needs.
I'm also going to throw out 3 teams because this year the AFC West does play the NFC West. San Francisco, Arizona, Seattle.
Yeah,
you're playing those teams one apiece.
At least 6 picks to the Arizona Cardinals. At least.
It's not a pleasant lineup for a quarterback who's prone to throwing picks.
But I mean, if we look at the draft with Oakland, and we already talked about Todd McShay and Mel Kiper's drafts, and they were released at different times for the 3.0. Right now, though, it looks like Mel Kiper, could they draft a Sammy Watkins at number 5? Give Schaub someone to throw to. Fix that problem right away.
I think it would be a very smart idea. At number 5 overall, go ahead, get a wide receiver. You are kind of trusting that he's going to be as productive in the NFL as he was in college. And we also know in the NFL, hey, if you only got 1 receiver, all right, we're going to put 2 guys on him. Maybe we'll even put a 3rd guy on him. Have fun throwing the ball now. So I don't think that helps that much. There's a lot of issues on the Oakland Raiders. This is not a good... it's not a good place for Matt Schaub. He's saying it's a fresh place and it's going to be great for him. I really disagree. You have
anywhere is better than Houston for him.
Sure, but you have an older running back who's probably doesn't have very much left in him. So much they only want to give him 1 year.
Yeah, and Arian Foster has much in him with how much he's been injured of late.
Arian Foster is still one of the best running backs in the game.
Oh, yeah, when he's on the field.
Sure, but when he's on the field, he's doing great.
Yeah, but let's get him on the field
He's still
first.
on the field more than Darren McFadden has been. Darren McFadden is the most injury-prone running back to ever start in the last 5 years. I'm sorry, there's no way around that. Phenomenal talent when healthy, but he's not healthy.
And I mean, one of the free agent signings that thrown out there for the Raiders, they did get James Jones, who used to be with Green Bay.
Fantastic. He can throw the ball to James Jones.
And James Jones was made to look fantastic because of Aaron Rodgers throwing to him.
Was it really because of that, or is James Jones a quality? I'm not saying a great receiver. He's still a quality receiver.
Quality like number 2
Yeah,
receiver.
and if you
So-
draft Sammy Watkins, Watkins can be your number 1, your take the ball deep kind of guy.
I guess it's possible.
And I mean,
I'm not hopeful
you
on it.
still have guys in free agencies, Santonio Holmes, Miles Austin, who are type of guys that, yeah, they've got cut from their last teams, but those are guys that at least can step in and be a number 1
No.
for Schaub to throw to.
Miles Austin's done. He's a broken player at this point. I have no faith left in him. Holmes has personality plus injury issues. I mean, there's a reason they haven't been picked up by a team yet. I see them being picked up after the draft, and likely for a team who's like, yeah, we can throw some money at him. It's not going to hurt us in the long run. We can cut him if we have to. The thing I see that could happen is Deshaun Jackson seems to be on the market right now for the Eagles. I think they're asking for like a 3rd rounder. They don't want to cut him, but they do seem like they're open to trading.
Should the Raiders trade for him? Is that what you're getting
That's
at?
what I'm saying. It's an option, and it's a good one. Deshaun Jackson, absolutely very productive wide receiver.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think the Eagles should trade him. Keep him.
He's not getting along. I'm sorry. He's not going to play this season in Philadelphia. I just don't see it happening. I think that the Raiders, their best move, okay, Moore's still there, but yeah, go ahead, get Sammy Watkins and get Deshaun Jackson. You got your problem solved there. They have a fantastic tight end still. So I'm all for Deshaun Jackson move. I think they can afford a 3rd rounder. I know this is a pretty bad team, but going out and getting Deshaun Jackson and then maybe seeing if that contract can be restructured, may or may not, either way, it puts them in a better position than they were. I still don't agree with, I don't know, I feel like Terrell Pryor was seeing improvement. As long as he would stop running backwards. I mean, 3rd and 49 was pretty horrendous. But other than that, I still would like to see him progress as a quarterback. I love the idea of the dual impact quarterbacks, but you're going to get Schaub, you're going to get a more conventional offense, so you got to give him the wide receivers to throw it to.
And you might actually see Terrell Pryor out there. Schaub maybe won't last that long, who knows? Or the other option, maybe Terrell Pryor takes a different position. Maybe he shows up on the field because they have some needs. Terrell Pryor is a very athletic guy who can make things happen on the field. If you can just get him the ball, it might be pretty interesting. He might be a guy who, I'm not saying he's going to be a number 2, number 3 wide receiver, but maybe let him show up every once in a while on a few different packages and throw him the ball and just let him run around. That's what the kid does anyways.
Well, and I'm looking at Oakland's picks right now in this year's draft. They have the number 5 overall pick in the 1st round. They have a 2nd round pick at 36, 67th overall in the 3rd, a 4th rounder, and then 2 7th round picks. That is all Oakland has right now. So to give up that 3rd rounder for Deshaun Jackson, because of how little picks they already have,
That's pretty
would
rough,
it be
yeah.
a smart move? And I'm saying no based on that.
Depends when you want to win. If you go with the Ghost of Al Davis, just win, baby. It's the smartest move you can make. But
Yeah,
if
but
they're
you're
trying
not
to
adding
rebuild a
depth to your
franchise,
team.
yeah, well, picking up Matt Schaub as your quarterback isn't going to make your team inherently better. I'm sorry, you're picking up a quarterback who just came off his worst year ever, where he got benched, where he has set a new record for consecutive pick sixes. I mean, that's the guy this is our man, It's a team that's rebuilding, so they just let top talent walk away from the team, too, in free agency. I don't know. Oakland's just a giant question mark when it comes to making smart moves. They need to pick a direction and stick with it. They're going to build to win now, trade the 3rd, get Deshaun Jackson, and beef up that team.
Well, and I mean,
but if they're going to rebuild a franchise, why did they pick up Schaub? It doesn't make sense.
The thing with Schaub, and I'm not totally against this move, is because we've seen quarterbacks who have either had mama drama with their former team and then say, I want out, or not be successful and be successful in a new team.
We're hoping for
Brett Favre did it. Peyton Manning didn't play. He got out of Indy.
Well,
I know Peyton Manning's different than Schaub, but it's relatable.
Yeah, for the love of God,
you
don't
also
compare
had
them.
Carson Palmer, I would say, is doing a lot better in Arizona than he was his last few years in Cincy.
Well,
And even
they broke his knee.
came from the Oakland Raiders.
What about Jay Cutler?
He did come from Oakland.
What about Jay Cutler? Compare what happened with him in Denver and now what he's
He put
doing
up really
with
good
the Bears.
numbers. He just didn't win, big games.
Yeah,
he still got his
Schaub,
receiver.
I was gonna say.
overall, Matt Schaub's career hasn't been terrible.
Are they praying for another Rich Gannon year in 01 or what? I mean, I just don't know what exactly Oakland's building for right now. That's my thing.
It's not bad. You'll win some more games this coming season.
You'll never be
than
in a
you did
fourth.
before.
You'll never be in a 3rd and 49 position with Matt
Exactly.
Schaub. I guess that's something to look forward to.
I just don't think it really gets you anywhere to be excited about. I mean, you might go get yourself 6 wins. That's great.
But
Doesn't get you much.
I was saying in that conference, come on.
I just think that for the Oakland Raiders, Matt Schaub's not going to be a long-term answer. I am assuming they're pretty aware of that too. So I guess for now, at least you don't have the quarterback question. And you can go ahead and get yourself a wide receiver, eventually get yourself a running back, fix some defensive holes that you have, and try and rebuild for what has been a very, very long rebuilding process in Oakland. Maybe it's going to come to an end sometime in the distant future, but it's not in the next few years.
So, and one of the things, Dave, that you said that I just want to, you're like, oh, well, maybe you win 6 games. For Oakland, that would be like winning a Super Bowl.
No, it wouldn't.
At least getting
I'm sorry,
6 wins and being like, okay, we did better than last year.
I don't think that's good enough.
It's a small victory, but it's nothing to be that excited about. If you're an Oakland Raiders fan, you're not that excited about 6 wins.
As long as it's a step in the right direction. I think the biggest thing that impedes the Raiders this offseason is their number of draft picks. And I mean,
it doesn't help.
You look at that draft,
and for Schaub, but
teams build depth through the draft, and you want to get players that in those late rounds that you can develop into something.
Yeah, but Oakland just let those players that they developed walk in free agency. So, I mean, it's great if you're going to go out and use the picks and develop players, but you got to hold on to them. That's how the team gets better. So that's what I'm saying is you just let people walk in free agency, top young talent. So what are you doing? You're going out and getting Schaub with the 6th rounder. Okay, let's give up draft picks for middle-aged quarterbacks who just had their worst year ever.
Well, and I mean, you say middle-aged quarterbacks that have bad years. The Jets, they go ahead and release Mark Sanchez and then sign Michael Vick, and I'm sitting here going, why are you signing Michael Vick?
Vick
really?
didn't have a bad year, though. He was injured, and that's the thing. There's a difference between injury and a bad year.
To me, injured is still a bad year. If you're injured and out for the season, that's a bad year.
I entirely disagree with you.
Yeah, I think it's a difference between having a bad year and a injury. You can say it's a concern. It's something to be concerned
It's
about.
still a flag against them.
I'm looking at it to where if I was a quarterback and let's say I was having a good year and then got injured for the rest of the season, I'd look at it as a bad year. I'd be like, you know what? I wasn't on the field. It's a bad year.
Sure, but as someone who's evaluating the talent, as someone who's going to coach,
performance, yeah,
it's not a bad year. It's a whole other category. It's still a concern.
Michael Vick had a phenomenal year when healthy. I mean, his numbers were fantastic. So I don't want to call it a bad year. I'm just saying he got injured, which is part of the course. Michael Vick hasn't played a 16-game season
then why?
in 8 years.
Then why
I'll
sign
tell you
him?
exactly why. Because they have Geno Smith, the guy who can do the same thing Mike Vick can do. This way, they can get a full season. And I'm not saying this to be joking around. They can get a full season out of a quarterback position right now. They have a guy who's been there, done that, in the style that Geno Smith wants to play, and can show him kind of the ropes a little bit. They can go either directions. Maybe they stick with the rookie quarterback, or they go with the veteran and let the rookie eventually come in, because eventually they probably will get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You're going to count on Vick to get hurt if he plays. It's an eventuality at this point. So I think what they're hoping is for Mike Vick to take on the mentor role, which he wasn't so hot on. He wanted to be a starter, and that's what he's going to compete for in training camp.
I don't see him being okay with that. And like you said, he wants to compete. He even said in a quote, Geno's the starter, but from this point on, we're going to compete every day.
Exactly.
He wants to start. He doesn't want to be that mentor.
It doesn't matter if he wants to be a
ropes.
mentor or not. It's still the fact that Geno can watch somebody who plays the same style but much more effectively. It's by proxy learning almost. It's like Brett Favre. Everybody was like, well, yeah, Aaron Rodgers can learn from Brett Favre. From all accounts, Brett Favre didn't teach him. I mean, he did not care. And it wasn't a very good relationship between the two of them as backup starter. it was always like Favre's like, no, you're not playing. You're never going to play as long as I'm here.
Well, and that's why Favre eventually got run out of town.
Yeah, and he came back and he whooped Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's nothing to do with what he wants him to do, but having a player who can already play the mobile quarterback style to the top level. I mean, I think Mike Vick was one of probably the 3 best mobile quarterbacks in the old NFL. So I see no downside to bringing him in there and having Geno watch him.
Plus, Geno Smith is not a first-round pick. He's not one of those top overall picks. He's a guy taken in the 3rd round.
He's I'm going to compare him to a Brady Quinn. He sat there through most of the first round, like, oh, why am I even?
Entire first round.
Why am I even
Poor
here?
Brady
Why did I
Quinn.
show
He
up on
sat
day
there at
one?
one point and said, "I'm not coming back tomorrow."
Poor Brady Quinn. I
Still
still
came
remember
back, though.
seeing him there, just sitting out in the open in the middle of the room.
I love
I
love Geno Smith sitting there though, because you saw it wasn't like embarrassment, it wasn't shame, it was
He was pissed.
I am pissed.
He was pissed.
And then I just love that part of the interview of, no, I'm not coming back tomorrow. Came back anyways, and then thankfully he did because he was drafted by the Jets. But yeah, I mean, it's not like you had one of these top picks. This is a guy that you can afford to sit. You didn't pay him tons and tons of money. You don't have all these built expectations around him. It was just, hey, this is a good talent that's available in the 3rd round. All right, we'll take him.
Exactly. And if you look at Geno Smith's deficiencies right now, accuracy is a huge one. That's something Mike Vick struggled with early on in his career too. But he's come such a long way as far as his accuracy goes. It's really something amazing, and I think it's something that they're hoping Geno Smith goes, all right, well, what did you do to improve on this style of, what did you do here, what did you do there, kind of thing. I think going over tape, they're going to see a lot of that, and he's going to be able to learn if he's willing to.
Well, and one of the things, this is what I think about when I think Michael Vick last season. Yes, he had only 3 interceptions, his fewest since 2003 when he played with the Falcons. Was his good play last season mostly in part to the kind of system that Chip Kelly put into Philly last year?
Oh, it absolutely is improved by it, but I don't think that he would have.
Because you're not going to have that
struggled
system in
necessarily.
New York. Rex Ryan's your boss.
No, but his old coach from the Falcons is there as offensive coordinator, so I think you're going to be okay still. I think he knows what
I don't
he's
know
working
if you
with.
could say okay with Rex Ryan being the head coach.
It doesn't matter.
He'll
Head
something
coach-
up.
Yeah, but he's just focusing on the defense.
Exactly. Rex Ryan's the least involved in the offense of any head coach I've ever seen. So if you're going to get free reign anywhere, it's going to be your offensive coordinator.
Now, we do have to hope that, of course, Rex Ryan does say, all right, have fun offense. I'll see you guys week 18, when we're sitting at home watching the playoffs.
Go out there and use your token draft pick on some offensive player who has a bunch of potential but absolutely no talent.
Which everyone's saying could be Marquise Lee.
Could be. Would
Why
be a
not?
great pick.
Yeah, why not?
Another
But yeah,
team in the running for the Deshaun Jackson, too.
it's just an interesting thing. It's funny, too, because the only reason Geno Smith started, and we're not getting into conspiracy theories, the only reason he started was because Mark Sanchez got injured. And it's funny now that he's got a backup quarterback competing for that job who's very injury prone.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that might be a reason why he does, in fact, keep that starting job.
I think the Jets are a team who's going to go, hey, look, we got more wins than last year. It's a fantastic year. That's
Super
their
Bowl
mentality.
next year. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a total Jets mentality.
Well, and I mean, you look at, we were just talking about Oakland competing in their division. The AFC North isn't, or not AFC North, the AFC East is nothing to push over either. You have the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
The Dolphins are going to try to come back and save their debacle of a season last year with the Jonathan Martin incognito struggles. And then you have the Bills, who seem to be getting better and better.
Do they, though? I mean, do any of these teams really seem like they're getting that much better, or
The
do
Bills,
New England Patriots
the Bills
still
look
have
like
the
a solid,
stranglehold on the AFC
team,
East?
not a great team, not a good team, a solid team.
I think this is just filled with a bunch of mediocre teams.
Yeah, I
we'll
think it's
see
still
after
the
draft.
Patriots. They can push their will on whoever they want at this point. It's still just Brady up here, everybody else down there. So I think the Jets have a great chance to get second place in this without too much work. That sounds wrong in football, but I think it's entirely possible for them to take second
It's an easy
place.
road.
Yeah, it's a much easier path.
But if they take second place, does that mean they're going to get a 5th or 6th seed in the playoffs?
No.
Probably not. but it's still an improvement.
You still have a young quarterback who's got a lot to learn out there with probably what's going to be new weapons to throw to, which will have more to learn. The defense probably will be pretty decent. The defense under Rex Ryan's always pretty decent, and they love to play under him, so that's always going to help. But that only gets you so far when you have some big deficiencies on your offense. Even with Mike Vick out there, I think we still got a lot to go with the draft and stuff like that, but I don't see this team being much better than 8-8.
Yeah.
Well, and we talked about who the Jets have added this week. They got rid of a big name with the Sanchez, Mark Sanchez.
The Bub Phone Boy.
And is there, I'm just going to throw this out there, what team gets him? What team goes after him? What team signs him?
It's really bad timing for Sanchez to be released now. It seems like everybody has just gone out and filled their quarterback needs, and now let's hit the market. I don't want to say it was like intentional by the Jets, but it does seem like a jerk move.
Oh, it's a big slap in the face. If I'm Mark Sanchez, I'm insulted that you guys knew you were going to cut me. You knew this was going to happen. Why did you wait? Why did you wait so long? I mean, maybe they're saying, oh, we wanted, to make sure we got Mike Vick, but they were going to cut him no matter what. I think it's going to be interesting. I think one of those teams that does get a rookie quarterback in the first round, I think they pick up Mark Sanchez. At least they make a shot for it.
Cleveland's definitely a big possibility.
One of them. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. It's a little rougher because of Matt Castle, but I wouldn't be surprised with the Vikings going for him as well. It's a veteran presence that can help a young quarterback.
But I don't know. I feel like if we're talking about this maybe weeks ago before we signed Matt Castle back, I feel like if we don't sign Matt Castle, if Sanchez is there, we as a team go, okay, which one do we want? Now that we already have Matt Castle,
but you just lost Joe Webb to the Panthers.
Why sign another one when we're going to draft a quarterback in the first round? Why?
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
We do still have Christian Ponder still, too.
If you don't want to take a quarterback in the first round, the Vikings
we're going to take a quarterback.
Just start Mark Sanchez. I think Mark Sanchez actually, as much as we all make fun of him, he's a guy who can start games. If I was an Oakland fan, I would rather have Mark Sanchez than Matt Schaub. And I know that one of them has more negative connotations about them, but Mark Sanchez still has the ability to do more than Matt Schaub, even though Matt Schaub's thought of as the more successful quarterback.
And I'm even looking at teams like you have Matt Castle was signed early. The Vikings, a team that was in need of a quarterback. Josh McCown, he goes to the Buccaneers. I'm not saying that Lovey would pick Mark Sanchez over Josh McCown, but it could have been a possibility. And then you also have teams like, not the Jets, they released them, but like the Bengals, the Raiders, the Texans, all these teams now like, okay, we already filled our position.
Yeah, it's a bad position for him to be in. And if I'm Mark Sanchez, I'm looking for a 1-year deal. Give me a 1-year deal so I can go somewhere next year. And I can have my choice.
That's absolutely the correct attitude to take. And, regarding your whole Matt Castle versus Sanchez thing, that's actually pretty interesting. I think Sanchez is probably one of them, even versus Schaub, too. I mean, they're all right there. But I think I would lean heavily towards Castle, even though he had that injury. Because you have to remember, Sanchez has been in New York for his entire career, but he hasn't shown vast improvement. He started off going to, AFC Championship game, but that was because of his defense. And because of that heavy run game, we haven't seen him kind of have, a breakout year, stat-wise, performance-wise, anything. We've seen some sparks from Castle. We've seen Schaub throw up some big numbers. So I think he's just one of those guys who's going to be a solid competitor.
It's going to help Mark Sanchez to be on a team that wants him. And right now he's in a weird position where all these other teams have already kind of said, this is our guy, or this is probably our guy. And he needs to be somewhere where the team wants him. Because what happened in New York, they went and got Tim Tebow. There were question marks. And then he, had this weird Geno Smith situation going on where Geno Smith is drafted as a developmental guy who ends up getting your job due to injuries. You're not coming back.
I'm going to throw out a team that could go after Sanchez, and you guys tell me what you think. Jacksonville. They trade away Gabbert. Yes, they still have Chad Henne. They're still going to draft a quarterback, but why not have the three of them? Henne, Sanchez, and then whatever quarterback they draft.
It's not the worst thing that could happen. But being a third-string quarterback, I don't know if that's... Again, though, if he's just looking for 1 year, I don't know if they're willing to pay him.
Or,
you know?
What if Texans, they go with whoever they go with. If they go Khalil Mack or Jadeveon Clowney, you sign Sanchez, and then you have the Rams go non-quarterback, and you say, hey, you know what? We already have our 2 quarterbacks. Let's go with whoever the defensive player Houston doesn't pick, Clowney or Mack.
So, I mean, in those 2 situations, just going off of teams you mentioned, what a combination it would be to get, you go ahead, you get Fitzmagic on the Texans, and then you also get Sanchez. What a combination of not exciting quarterbacks to have. But
no. Sanchez would be on Jacksonville.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just talking about various teams that have potential here. St. Louis Rams would be an interesting situation with that number 2 pick, just to light a fire under Sam Bradford.
Yeah, but when God knows he's not doing shit.
Yeah, exactly. And you hate him so much. I think he's still got some potential in him. But when it comes to what you're saying, Ricky, with the Jacksonville Jaguars, I would rather see him go to another team in Florida, that being the Miami Dolphins. Because Tannehill, as much as we all in this room love the Tannehill family, he needs something to get him going. And they showed at his rookie year when they drafted him, they had a big competition there with Garrard, with Matt Moore, with Tannehill as well. There's really no competition now, and Tannehill hasn't shown the improvement we need.
I like that.
Light a fire under his ass.
See, I don't know. I feel like the big thing with the Dolphins in general is they're going to be so worried about, okay, how do we move on from the Jonathan Martin fiasco, that they're not even going to, I'm going to say they're not even going to look at Sanchez. Because right now they're looking at how do we save our image as a team. Because right now, the Miami Dolphins do not have a good image in the NFL because of what happened with Jonathan Martin.
I really don't think it's anything that would hurt their image. I mean, it's just kind of a smart and prudent move. It depends what money Sanchez is looking at, though. But I still don't think that signing him would hurt in any way. And I could see it where they're like, okay, we want to really rebrand ourselves towards, something better, something more positive in the community. But honestly, I don't think that Sanchez would be a bad move.
What about this? Let me throw this out there. Yes, he'd be a backup, but with how injuries have happened in the city of Chicago, what if the Bears said, hey, we'll sign you as the backup, and then he gets to work with the quarterback whisperer?
I mean, the Chicago Bears do need a backup quarterback now. They don't have one. Right now, by default, it basically is going to
Palmer.
If they want to keep Palmer around, or Blanchard, still sitting on that practice squad, always coming back year after year.
Wisconsin Whitewater.
Yep, the young undrafted quarterback. But it's a possibility. Another option that just kind of jumped into my head: why not the Broncos? I mean, they've spent a lot of money. But just let him sit there and learn a little bit behind Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's probably gone after this year. Do you really trust Osweiler to be the future?
Or what I was thinking, so many teams have been interested in Osweiler. If you don't think he's the future, sign Sanchez to be the backup and then say, okay, we'll trade Brock.
And
try to get a double steal.
There were a lot of teams, not tons and tons of teams, but there were some teams out there who were interested in trying to trade for Brock Osweiler. It seems like John Elway really kind of thinks this is the future, and he's a John Elway type of quarterback, so that would work out. I personally don't believe it, so I would like to see them go do something else because they're not going to have much going on probably next year after Peyton leaves.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember, though, they did get Zach Desert.
Yeah, that's not really an exciting...
Okay, he had some flair in college at Miami of Ohio, but still, I think that they're okay on quarterback, and I think Brock probably is going to be their guy leaning forward, but it's not like they're empty cupboards after that. So I think the fact that they went out and used a draft pick last year, like 2 years in a row using draft picks on quarterbacks, they're pretty sure on who they've got behind Peyton.
Well, and now to move outside of the quarterback realm. All show we've been talking about quarterback this, quarterback that. There's one free agent, non-quarterback, that on Friday I get an ESPN notification that, hey, he signed with Seattle, he's going to Seattle, and then it's like, no, I'm going to weigh my options. Jared Allen, weighing basically Seahawks, Cowboys. If you're Jared Allen, Who do you go with?
I don't think he was weighing options so much as he's weighing how much money do I want? Because am I going to be around that much longer? I think
money,
he wants to get paid.
Super Bowl chance.
I think he wants to get. When you come to the end of your career, those are two hard options.
That is
do
the
I
decision.
go for the ring or do I get that one last big paycheck?
You go to the ring.
If he wants the ring, he's going to Seattle.
And if he wants some money, he's going to Jerry World.
Exactly, because those are the two options. And it's going to be perfect to see which option he does take. But, I mean, either one for Jared Allen is a solid option.
Well,
That's
I mean,
a horrifying defense. You got Jared Allen to
You got to think of this,
Seattle.
too. If he goes to Dallas, he gets to play with former Chicago Bear Henry Melton, who signed with them earlier this week.
Definitely. And Henry Melton, very, very talented. It's going to be a very interesting dynamic with those two. Yeah, I mean,
he's still a question mark.
But those two could be a very tough defensive line to go around.
But I'm sorry, Seattle. If you put him in Seattle, you're going to obviously not take top dollar to play there, but good God, I could not imagine playing against that defense.
Plus, it's kind of hard to not play with that defense when they created the most turnovers in the league last year, which hasn't been done since the 85 Bears.
Yeah, you're definitely going to what would basically be a legendary defense. At the same time, it's just interesting. It comes down to what he wants to do for the future of his career. If this is one last year, why not? Why not go ahead and go try and get that ring?
I would definitely go for the ring.
But at the same time, what other team is trying to do the exact same thing? Denver Broncos. You got another team right there, and the Patriots trying to make a resurgence to get back into that top team consideration. There are no guarantees.
Yeah, with the Patriots, their little sense of urgency button is being pushed now more than some because Tom Brady's shelf life he's leaning more towards retirement than he is lifelong career.
Have a shelf life. That Seattle defense has a shelf life. Once they start having to pay.
That's cash money.
Well,
yeah.
The thing with Seattle, and I feel like you can compare it to this a little bit, but when the Bears won the Super Bowl in '85. People thought that was going to be a dynasty, that the Bears were just going to come back
it's called bad
and
coaching.
do it again. That could happen in Seattle. I'm not saying it's going to, but are you worried about that in Seattle a little bit?
Am I worried about a dynasty in Seattle?
No. I worry about maybe, people are expecting us to be a dynasty and then the wheels kind of fall off type of thing.
Okay. I think that's going to happen, only because they don't have the money to pay for everybody.
Yeah.
Once you start it to, and I think people like Richard Sherman, they're not dumb players. They're smart enough to understand I can take a little bit less money, than he probably could earn somewhere, so that way we can keep some of these guys. But I definitely think there's going to be a lot of people leaving Seattle because they can't be paid.
Yeah.
And these guys are putting, you don't want to say putting their life on the line, but they're putting their livelihood on the line every day, every day they go out there.
And I mean, another thing that kind of popped in my head because it happened this week was Bo Jackson came out this week and was talking about Russell Wilson, who's playing some baseball right now at the Texas Rangers, basically said, forget about it. Just focus on one sport, because his whole argument was the depth of talent that is available now compared to when Bo played. There are so many people just focusing on one sport and getting so much better that someone could take your job.
Exactly. And with Russell Wilson, I don't think it's more of a he wants to take himself seriously in baseball. I think he's just looking to expand himself out as a brand, because he's got a Super Bowl championship already, but he's making like $700,000. I mean, he's going to cash in, and he wants to make sure that Seattle is going to pay the most that they're going to pay. I mean, that's what he's trying to do. It's almost, I don't want to say a threat, but it kind of reminds me of that. It's like, hey, if you don't pay me the money I deserve.
He's just putting some fear in them.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting way to look at it. I think right now Russell Wilson's just having a good time. He's a young quarterback having fun out there. I mean, it's interesting. He has already said he wants to own an NFL team one day. He's going out there playing baseball. He's entertaining that idea. He's just somebody who is on cloud nine. He just won a Super Bowl, very young quarterback to win a Super Bowl. No one thought he was going to do it because of, where he was drafted initially. Now he's just going out there saying, hey, this is great. Life couldn't be any better.
Yeah, don't close any doors on him yet.
See, well, and the two biggest players that I think of when you think played football and baseball, Deion Sanders, primetime, and Bo Jackson. And the biggest thing that is just you don't see with Russell Wilson is neither of those guys were a pitcher.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson would be pitching. What if he pitches one day, boom, something happens, Tommy John surgery? How would that destroy your NFL career?
That's a huge concern and something you got to take into consideration. I think it's almost pretty similar to the Jameis Winston situation, too. Winston's out there pitching. He's got like a 90-plus mile-an-hour fastball. So he's another player who, when he hits the NFL, is he going to dual sport?
The only thing that right now with Winston that I'm not that concerned about with Wilson, is Winston's a closer. So he's throwing maybe 1 or 2 innings tops. Wilson's throwing more.
The thing, though, is any position of any
you're
sport,
just risking by being there.
Yeah, they're going to have... I mean, he could injure his shoulder, have a rotor cuff injury that basically ends his career in football just by being out there throwing the ball.
Mariano Rivera went down to outfield fly ball practice. That was what he did every single day for his entire career, and just a freak accident out there before games started. I mean, come on.
It's just no matter what happens, there's always going to be some danger. So I mean, I don't think
you can't bubble wrap yourself.
Yeah, that's not a big issue. Russell Wilson, I think right now he's just enjoying life because it's great. If I'm the Seattle front office, let him have some fun. And Russell Wilson's a good guy. He's going to come back once football season gets started, and he's going to be all about football.
And I guarantee you, in that next contract, that big contract that Wilson's going to cash in on,
it's gonna be huge.
There's going to be a clause that's like, hey, you're not touching a baseball. Sorry. I think that's a smart move to do.
Why not? He can demand it.
Exactly. So.
Well, and that's the thing, and I just think back to Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson had it in his contract where I'm not going to play football until baseball season's over, so he might miss the first 3 weeks of the season
no chance
and then
that
come
Wilson is going to do that. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, when you're the starting quarterback of the defending Super Bowl champions, if you miss those first 3 games,
it's not like he would do that right now.
Yeah, I know,
career.
but I mean, right now those are win-losses. I'm not saying he's going to do that because that'd be ludicrous.
Sure, but at the same time, I mean, if he's a pitcher, you get win-losses attached to you too.
The only person who publicly had a very good shot at the NFL and chose baseball that I can top my head is Samardzija. I mean, he would have been probably a late first round, second round talent at wide receiver. Decided to go with the MLB. Became a starting pitcher for the Cubs. I believe he's your ace right now.
Yep.
And I mean, it's not working out terribly for him. Let's be honest. He had some really good talent. But I don't know if Russell Wilson is ready to just walk away from football after winning a championship.
Yeah, and I don't think I think he's just having fun. He's just having fun. It's just something else to do. Like, I'm going to be a great football player. I'm going to play some baseball too. Why not? I can do both.
Exactly.
It's almost like Michael Jordan syndrome of, hey, I'm such a great basketball player. Let's see if I can play baseball.
I don't think he's quite there yet mentally, but yeah.
And I think it's funny too right now. Obviously, with March Madness going on, so just watching some of those games and having announcers talk about some of these guys would make some great tight ends.
Oh,
I say, who's 6'8", 6'10" out there?
Some of these things do kind of overlap.
One of the games that I remember was the Tennessee UMass game. They're talking about one of the Tennessee power forwards saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to talk to the football coach next year, see if I can play some tight end.
Why
Absolutely.
not? Give yourself some options. I mean, obviously Russell Wilson's not giving himself options. He had his option. He's playing football. He's going to get a huge paycheck for it. But right now, just go out there, have fun. I mean, he is the defending Super Bowl MVP. Or he's not the MVP, but he's the quarterback that won, and we all remember quarterbacks out there. He's the quarterback that won that Super Bowl. He beat Peyton Manning. There will probably never be a better moment in his life than right now.
Well, and I was just looking, Dave, just to, when you brought up Jeff Samardzija, the wide receivers that came out the same draft that Samardzija would have, the top 3 taken, Donnie Avery, Devin Thomas, Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, I mean, Jordy Nelson obviously was the big thing there, but...
And those were all second-rounders. Eddie Royal was in that draft, Jerome Simpson, Deshaun Jackson.
I mean, there's some talent there, but I don't know what he would have done. None of us know what he would have done in the NFL. So he went with baseball. I think he was already leaning baseball before any of this happened, though.
Well, I mean, you got to think of this, and especially in a decision-making like Samardzija had to make. Do you want to have an everyday grind in football, where you're basically practicing every day. Or with him, he's a pitcher. You know what? I pitch once every 5 days. You don't work as hard, like, physically as playing football when you're a pitcher.
Yeah, the possibility to have a longer career in baseball than you do in football.
Very true. And you keep your noggin safe for the most part. You gotta watch out
unless
for those,
you're getting hit in the face with a line drive.
You got that, but I mean, the odds of that versus the odds of concussions in the NFL, it's not if, but when.
And what we're bringing up is the Aroldis Chapman thing. And I want to jump, quick question, diving away from football a bit, but I want to ask this because it happened this week. If you were to get hit anywhere with a line drive baseball, line drive football, anything, head or nutsack? Because there was a ref that got beamed in the balls with a line drive this week.
No, I mean, taking the nuts. You got a cup on. If you're playing sports, you got a cup on. You're fine.
How many pitchers are wearing cups? That's my question.
I wouldn't risk not wearing. You see one of those line drives come right back at you?
I've seen them not wearing cups very clearly.
Let's put it this way.
When a ball hits, you can tell from the reaction.
And 100+ mile an hour line drive, nuts or noggin.
I mean, do you want to have kids?
Well, either way, you get hit in the head, you're not having kids.
There's a chance. He's got a metal plate in his head, but he can still, I'd totally fine.
I would risk it, taking the nuts. You probably pass out from the pain immediately. You wake up in a hospital.
And you're hoping one's still going to be there?
You're holding them?
All
Are you holding them in your
You
hand?
only need one. Lance Armstrong proved that.
Live strong.
But that's going to do it for the Onside Kick this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. You can follow us on our new Twitter at MVP Sports Reel and on Facebook at facebook.com/MVP Sports Network. It's a new sports network that the three of us are creating to give you all the best info in sports. And as always, have a good day, everybody.